Jax Dwyer is a growth marketer and founder of Cult Media, an agency specializing in building organic to paid marketing funnels for mobile apps. He's best known for creating breakdown content on social media, where he analyzes the growth playbooks, acquisition strategies, and marketing tactics behind successful apps like Headspace and Cal AI. Jax, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Dude, good. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate the warm introduction.
Of course, brother. We've worked together, I think, for about a year or so now, and I just wanted to get into what you guys are doing right now in growth and what's working for you guys, and kind of where you see the field of growth going. So,
Yeah,
yeah, let's
absolutely.
let's let's get into it. Right now, are you focusing more on organic or paid for your clients?
So right now we're focusing primarily on organic, but the way I like to look at it is an organic to paid pipeline. So we want to put out a critical mass of content and figure out, hey, what kind of marketing messaging works to cold traffic without having to pay, like spend a bunch of money to figure it out. So I'm sure if anyone's run paid media before, they have this feeling where they like upload 50 creatives and only like three of them spend. They're like, what the hell is Meta doing? The problem is a lot of those creatives weren't tested beforehand on any sort of audience. So you're kind of just like betting with your budget. What we like to do for companies is pretty much post like 1,000 times a month for them, figure out the best winners there, repurpose those into paid media, their Spark ads, meta partnership ads, and then pretty much put budget behind those. So that's how we think about it and just kind of the full life cycle.
Incredible. So, what type of creators are you working with, or what's the main creative that you try to provide for brands?
Yeah, for the most part, we go with a very creator forward style. We don't like headless or faceless or like carousels, anything like that. We're really trying to get the kind of yapper style. And I can give a super brief background in myself. So I started as like an engineer at BlackRock, and then I was an engineer at Google. And while I was an engineer at Google, I started making relationship comedy videos with my then ex girlfriend. And I had this weird phenomenon where I was like really into the tech world, but then I was doing this like influencer thing and I couldn't make any money from it. So I was very interested in this idea of being like, well, how do influencers monetize and how can you get all of this traffic and not monetize? And that really sent me down this like rabbit hole of being like, how do you make content that actually makes people pay you? Because I started in the comedy space and to make somebody laugh, they won't pay you that much for it. Like so there's a reason only like the 1% of the 1% of comedians work well. So to double back to that point, essentially I figured out this yapper style of content where you can talk, where you're telling stories, you're weaving in products, and I found that that was the highest conversion rate. So that's pretty much what we teach all of our creators. We do other styles like hook and demo, Snapchat style, but for the most part I think the yapper style works the best. Maybe it's just because that's my experience, but we tend to get really great results with that.
It definitely converts the best. So a lot of agencies kind of use fake results, I would suppose, by inflating views by using formats that are more likely to go viral, like text on screen related formats or hook plus demo, where there's just music, no talking. Um, and I'm glad you don't do that because yapping style, I've had a couple apps now and I've ran growth for a lot of different apps, and yapping style is really the main thing that converts, especially if you're doing UGC. If you're doing influencer, you might get away with a little bit more because the audience just has more buy-in. Uh, but it's good to see that. So, how do you train your creators? What does that look like?
So I had a copyright. I've been through many lives here. So first I started as a relationship comedy guy in the Spanish space, and that's why people look at my like Instagram, they'll see a ton of followers. So started got my first like 80,000 followers probably in the Spanish relationship comedy. Then the next was in English relationship stuff, specifically towards the women market. And that really taught me a few different interesting copywriting principles. And not to make this podcast too wonky, but I can go through a bit about like how we think about hook writing and making content that actually like can, because I've done over 500 million views myself personally. If would that be interesting? Like, I'm happy to go
Yeah,
into
for
that.
sure. I would love to see kind of your process and how you like let's say if put you on the spot to make a brief, what kind of hooks do you feel like work really well? And yeah, give us an example app that and like hook style.
Yeah, so I'll go with the relationship space. Let's say we're marketing something like Hinge or Bumble or something of that nature. And the biggest thing I'm always looking for is you have to remember that we're not doing influencer marketing. When you do influencers, influencers can get away with a lot of BS that regular new creators cannot. Nobody knows them, nobody likes them, and nobody trusts them. It's an account with zero followers. They have to scale to cold traffic, meaning they have to scale to people that have never seen their face before. So the biggest thing when we're looking at how to scale to cold traffic and my whole research process, because really, like, writing is one part, but like research is 90% of the writing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find five influencers that already speak to this category. I'm going to sort their feed by like, okay, what are their top things, what are the top things they talk about, and I'm going to build out a niche dictionary. So as an example, I was in the women's niche, and I knew that when women talked about guys, there were certain terms that they used. They used things like banana bread. I could have said something like angel food cake, but there's something that banana bread means. You have to speak as if you're in market, meaning you're speaking like you're actually part of the tribe that they're in. Because the biggest problem with ads and things like that is it comes from somebody that's really disconnected from the audience, and it feels artificial, it feels fake. So you have to sound very in market. So first, identify top five influencers in there, sort their feed, figure out what they're talking about, and then go look at their best videos. At the end of the day, you're going to be stealing the best ideas. So if I had to just randomly make one up off the fly, I know the women's market really, really well. So something like this is, can men and women be friends? Why are all men's friends, female friends attractive? I know that that's going to rip a million views. So I have to do an idea that is so interesting in and of itself that they don't care who the messenger is. They don't care if you're handsome or good looking. Obviously, that stuff helps. But you have to have an idea that's so interesting in and of itself. For women, as an example, how to get a guy obsessed with you, how to drive him crazy after a breakup. These ideas, they do not care about who the messenger is, because it's an interesting idea in and of itself. If you've ever been on like the news channel and you see some stuff like seven craziest things Trump said, you're probably like, I'll click. I'm interested to see what he said. It has to be interesting in and of itself. Sorry, that was a little bit of a longer rant, but that's the idea, is like the headline for the video has to be so interesting in and of itself. That itself is going to buy you about 3 seconds, because most videos, when they suck, they can't get past that first 3 seconds. The second thing we're going to think about, and feel free to stop me here and ask another
You're
question if you like.
absolutely cooking. You are absolutely cooking. I want to talk about all of this, so just keep going, and then we'll circle
Yeah.
back.
The second thing is you have to remember people's mindsets when they're watching short form are very short. So you often have to double down. Like, so let's say I'm saying something like, can men and women be friends? And can a guy actually have a female friend? I'll sometimes just reiterate the first line just with a different emphasis. And a big thing as well is tonality. Like sometimes when you give a UGC person a script, let's think about the difference between me, handsome, funny, charismatic, and Leonardo DiCaprio. That guy's a bajillion times better than me. I could read the exact same words off of paper, and he's just going to nail it way better. So you have to teach the creators how to do tonality to vary their speech pattern. So first things first, we have an idea that scales to cold traffic. Second thing is we're reiterating it. We're like, hey, here's this juicy treat. Here's this interesting thing you care about. And trust me, I'm actually going to talk about it. So I usually have the headline and the first line match. The second thing is I'll give them a warning. This was an old copywriting trick I used to learn back in the day. I never thought it would work until I was doing it. I would say stuff like, and I don't know how long this video will be up for, but you have to pay attention. And it's like, holy, like I couldn't believe that stuff worked. And I was like, it's there's a bald fighter, I can't say the name, but he used to say stuff like, oh, the Matrix is going to take this video down. I used to feel like, damn, that's such a funny copywriting principle,
Dude,
but it works.
There's one that's really popular right now, and it's, if you're seeing this on your feed right now,
Yes,
it's meant for you.
manifestation niche. Yep.
Like, whoa, like people really, like, it means something to people. It's crazy.
Yeah, you had to feel like, because like so much stuff is just happening to people. You have to like shock them out of their like stupor. People are essentially like in a deep state of hypnosis on these platforms.
All the
And your
time.
biggest, all the time. Yeah. So what we'll do is big idea. We'll do a reminder. We'll do a warning. Like this could save you months, if not years, of heartbreak. And then I'll have to remind them what the video is about, because like they've already forgotten. So I'll be like, so how do you really make a guy obsessed with you? How do you really know if he's just friends with her? So these are just kind of all things. And then you'll go into like bridge statements. The whole thing in short form content, organic, is to prolong the average watch time of a video, because people are not there to get value. Like I could literally just tell a woman in the first 2 seconds of it, like, okay, like if he texts you, he likes you. If he goes out with you, he likes you. If he like meets your family and integrates you into his life, he likes you. But people don't want that. You need to figure out how to take those 3 bullet points and extend it into a minute and 30-second video.
This is like incredible ball knowledge. But I used to do this. I grew my account doing dating and relationship stuff, and these were a lot of the same principles I used. The problem was I eventually felt extremely guilty, because I felt like I know what can go viral.
Yes.
And then I knew, like, if I shared my opinion, people would disagree with it. And I hated the idea of people like just getting mad at something I made. not because of me, but someone sitting there just upset. It kind of bothers me.
Yes.
Like I don't want like, there's enough. You know what I mean? Do you ever struggle with
Yeah.
that at all?
Well, I left that niche because of it. So
Yeah.
there's an interesting video, and I wish I could credit the creator that did it. And he was essentially saying when you first join a niche, you study the niche so hard that you essentially embody the niche. You start thinking like the niche. You can speak in their language, but eventually you become so tuned in. Do you know exactly what will go viral? But you start self censoring yourself because you're like, I just feel icky doing it. So when you first start doing
Exactly.
it, you feel exciting. And then eventually you're like, oh, my morals, so they feel off here. Copywriting and sales are essentially a form of manipulation. And whether you're doing it for good products or bad products makes a massive difference in your ability to sustain any success in there. So like as an example, if you're working on let's just call them digital currency projects, I think there's a high burnout rate. You know what I mean? Versus if you're like helping people find love, or like we work on some mental health apps. I don't feel any bad about like hooking people in with sensational stuff with that.
Dude, that's the thing. If you want to make money, you have to do like kind of manipulate in a way. It doesn't sit well with me. I'll give you like a crazy example. I want to do founder guided fishing trips where I take a group of founders, have them go on this guided fishing trip experience with me. In order to do that, I need to put out content that's extremely good. I need to have copy that is going to sell them. And I
Mm-hmm.
need to have social proof of other people doing it. You know what I mean? And it's like, I just want to do this and I want them to pay for it and enjoy it. But it's everywhere. And I don't know, it's kind of like a tough thing to get over sometimes, you know?
Yeah, well, one, you got to always be marketing yourself, and two is you never want to half promote yourself. There was a thing Hermosi was talking about this, like a very niche Hermosi video where he talks about he's at some gym conference and he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to pitch. I'm just going to give these guys some free value." At the very end of his thing, he just does like a mini pitch. Oh, if you want to work with me, he's like, and nobody did it. And he was like, "Dude, I was giving this at a crazy discount." Like at the end of the day, you just need to do the things that make people buying. It's almost like a form of dancing, right? It's like people be like, "Oh, I don't want to dance." It's like, well, you kind of have to do the dance in order to do the thing. It's like if you're the bird that doesn't want to do the mating ritual, it's like, well, good luck.
You're not going to be mating.
Not gonna be mate. No mate for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it's actually tragic, but that is how the world works. If people, I know a lot of young guys that kind of struggle with this as well. Is there any recommendations you would have for them, like mentally, things they should read to overcome, this type of kind of animosity towards selling?
Ah, it's very interesting. I mean, there's a very funny Jeremy Haynes. Sorry, I'm name dropping a lot today. There was a very funny Jeremy Haynes thing where it was like, "Hey, bro, I heard you're thinking about giving up. Do it." And I was just like, sometimes I want to pick the boys up, but like, hey, there's got to be people that fetch the coffee too. But let me be nice for a second here because I was just taking Jeremy Haynes' obviously trolling thing. So you have to understand that like you're the only person that will care enough about your life in order to make a material difference in it. Like my mom, my dad, they want the best for me, but they don't wake up thinking, I gotta get Jack a bunch of more invoices. I gotta get him paid. They're not
Yeah.
thinking about how they get me a wife or anything like that. Like they care about my success, but you guys just really have to go all in. Now, your original question, I believe, was more on how to understand that selling is fine. You just have to remember that selling is serving. As long as you're not selling a bad product, right? And you're actively trying to. Sometimes you might be starting out new. Like we're in a group where a lot of guys are trying to start agencies, as an example. And they might be like, oh, well, like, I don't know if I should sell because like my service isn't that good. I'm like, well, just have conviction in yourself. Like, it's never going to be good when you first start. You can work on like a guarantee basis or something like that. Like, you have to start to be good.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And there's
you
going
got
to
to
be
put
like that
yourself in.
weird period where you're trying to sell and you're trying to make the product better, but it's just like not there yet. You kind of have to fight through
Yeah.
that until it gets better. And that's what Content Economy, our trained creator group was when we started. Not everyone was happy, especially because you can have disconnects between the sales team and the fulfillment team, which is
Yeah. For
classic.
selling.
But now it's so good that I actually don't even have to sell all that much. People will just go find people and refer people because they're talking about the product all the time, which is great. So it's super interesting. But I wanted to get back into a little bit more of growth and app
Mm-hmm.
marketing. You said you're
Yeah,
working with
absolutely.
with some mental health related apps right now. How many deliverables are you trying to do every single month for an app in order to have them go viral?
Yeah, so for the way we think about it is there needs to be like a critical amount of creators. Usually that's around the order of 10, and we know if we're staffing 10 creators, we're really staffing 15 because there's just natural churn, account bans, all that kind of stuff. Usually about 1,000 videos go out per month, and then times that by 4 for the number of platforms. Is that 100% needed? Not really, but pretty much everything you're going to notice in terms of content is there's about an 80-20 effect. So let's say 10 people on the deal, that's 20% are going to go viral. So you're going to have 4 creators just significantly outperform everyone else. Now that's one thing, is focusing on like, how do we get the raw deliverables out? Truth be told, that's kind of the easy part, right? It's just like, can you get your creators to post? Sure, you have to do like creator recruitment, all that kind of stuff. The really hard part is getting content that actually converts. Because like, you can just do crappy carousels and text on screen, or get like Bangladesh traffic. No offense to Bangladesh, but you ain't buying. Is you can get all this crappy traffic by just doing like a bunch of weird gimmicky tricks. The real core skill set is, how do you get people to buy? Like we had this one company that went from 0 users, like new product launch, which is always the hardest. Like before our company SPMF, is we got them from 0 to 100K users in 3 months, and that was just pressing volume, iterating on concepts, and we weren't allowed to use any paid ads for those guys either. For some of our other clients, we really find, how do we get the most amount of content out there possible, figure out what's working, like measure hook rate, measure the audience growth, measure, like sometimes these guys, like we had one creator on one of our campaigns get like 22,000 followers in the trading niche. So focusing on like really building up these UGC creators as damn near like mini influencers for the company. I'm trying to remember what your original question was, but I hope I answered some of it.
Yeah, it was mostly deliverables. We've done a little bit of that micro influencer molding. I'd kind of call it. I think that's very, very powerful, because if someone starts to gain traction on an account and gaining followers and all of that, people feel like they're early and they're really bought into those creators, which is very powerful. I just did an analysis on our influencer marketing versus our organic UGC, and we can see like a 1% paid conversion rate for those like strong organic UGC accounts, versus the influencers sometimes even go higher. Like for our install to paid conversion rate, it was like 10% for one of the influencers we had worked with, which was pretty cracked. I believe that's a very good number, actually.
I do want to touch on this for 1 second, because a lot of people online, specifically on Twitter, will be like, influencers are so overrated. You should never use influencers. And I'm like, no, influencers are great. I do think they kind of cap out around like 100, 200K a month in spend. And if you want to get to like many millions in ARR, you can't really just rely on that. But like the people that are just jabronis that say it doesn't work, or they're just like doing bad faith marketing copy, influencers 100% work, UGC 100% works, damn near everything 100% works. It's just, do you have people at the helm that are actually directing it well?
Yeah, people that have gotten results. You brought up 80-20 earlier. It's the same for every human domain, I believe, is the rule for proto distribution. But yeah, it's true. All of those things work. We've had success with all of them personally as well. I think I got some advice from a friend of mine named Philip. He runs growth at Minutes AI. And Philip told me, he's like, why are you doing paid? And I was like, well, it seems like that's a good way to grow. Like a lot of people are doing it. He's like, dude, you have 1,000 trained UGC creators. Don't touch paid. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, yeah, you're right. So we focus back on UGC and influencers or content, and it works significantly better, which is funny because downstream of that, paid becomes way more effective when you're doing organic at a high level like that.
I also love when people say this about paid, because I'm like, yeah, get out of here, losers. You love paid. Yeah. Stop increasing my CPMs.
Yeah, no, you're totally true. I don't really want to compete in that space fully at the moment, just because I have slightly different goals than our consumer app. But super interesting. I think that's well said. So that's basically 4,000 videos you have going out per month. That's crazy.
I would call it posts. So let's call it 1,000 videos per client, and then 4,000 posts. And yeah, we're just trying to hit a critical mass, and then our goal is really to repurpose those into their paid pipeline. We found, truth be told, there's this kind of meme that's like, oh, like the best creatives come from organic. That's not necessarily true. Essentially,
I fully agree, by the way. They're different styles of content.
They're very different styles of content. But the nice thing is, you can do, if you work with like a cracked agency like we are, like we'll do different retargeting strategies. So like, okay, so somebody saw your product before, how much of the video they watch? Okay, we'll retarget people that watch 50% of that video, or do meta partnership or spark codes, where you can really leverage that organic feeling and then feed them into more like direct pitches, which should be your other ad creatives that exist in the account. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So for meta partnership, you
Mhm.
whitelisting essentially.
Yeah, whitelisting. So for people that are unfamiliar, essentially, creators can go in their account and they can give ads managers or companies, they can give them codes where they can then rerun that content. Now, when that content's run, we'll just take Meta as an example here. It can be either, let's say it's called Jax app and Owen. So it could either appear dynamically as it's Owen's content, or it's Jax app's content, or it's Jax and Owen content collaborating.
Together.
So we've seen that for ecom brands, and now seeing this a lot more with ads. Is like usually the CPA, cost per acquisition, is like 20 to 40% lower. If you look at a company, they're in the ecom space, Spicy Cubes, they are using this really effectively. As are like a bunch of companies like Comfort, and funny enough, I think the app space is very behind compared to ecom. Ecom is like where the killers live.
Yeah, and same for info as well. Ecom and info guys in South Florida are just like
Yes.
I don't even want to say the word, like demonic almost. Like they're so manipulative. I know the founder of Spicy Cubes well. I've he's made me steak in his apartment before in Miami. Awesome guy, and I hate to put his product on blast like this because his marketing strategy is good. And I think they do like, oh man, I don't even want to say it, but it's like 250 million views a month or more. Uh, and they have a really unique funnel. He's been working on it for years. Very, very smart guy. And anyways, I don't want to put him on blast or
No, no,
anything,
no.
but
All good things. At the end of the day, the thing is always to look at the meta concepts. Even if you do not agree with somebody's funnel or the particular strategies they're using, there's always something to glean from it. I can give you. So let's look at the info guys as an example. So one of the biggest issues in apps, and this is why I think I'm going to shamelessly show myself here. I think most companies should come work for us because we don't give a crap about getting you guys views. We care about conversions. So one of the biggest problems in apps is that they have really low AOVs, meaning they have really low average order values. You're going to sell something for a year that's $97, and that's on the high end. It's going to be tough to make money, especially when you realize that Apple takes a 30% tax and then how much are you spending on ads. So the actual amount of money that a lot of these apps make is very compressed. Now, if they were just to look at a different industry like info or ecom, they would see, oh, okay, like the biggest companies are doing order bumps, meaning let's imagine you're at the grocery store. Yeah, we got Owen, he's going to pick up his grass fed steaks. And then there's going to be like gum and like candy right next to it. That's to increase the average order value. In apps, the only people that really do this are dating apps, and that's why they're some of the most profitable apps. It's because they're like,
extremely
well,
profitable.
do you want
Yeah.
roses? Do you want like boosts and stuff? But like
Yeah,
most
Hinge
people,
is the best at this. I mean, they have,
yeah,
and I think they are doing over 20 mil a month or something crazy like that.
exactly. And if you look at oh crap, who is the speaking app? Vocal Image is doing like 12 mil ARR. And the reason that they do that is they send all their ads people to a web funnel, and then they have different OTOs. OTOs just mean one-time offer. So let's say Owen buys the app yearly, and they're like, "Hey, would you also want the reduce your anxiety guide or the stop procrastination guide?" Or like, so they just continue to sell them things until they're like, "No mas, I don't want to buy anything else." So you could take an average order value that would typically be, sorry, this is a very wonky conversation at this point, $67, and get it all the way up to 100. Thus, you can scale. And the more you can scale with ads, you can essentially, that still sound horrible, you can choke out your competitors because you can pay more for the traffic.
Yeah, which is, I mean, you're really preaching right now. Like this is incredible stuff. And the ecom space in terms of order bumps and all that stuff, all the top companies are doing very interesting offers and stuff like that. I saw one recently. I can't remember the product, but essentially they have a very discounted, subscriber model for their CPG product. Um, it was, I think it's like 30% off your first order of your subscription. And then they bill quarterly for the next. So you get billed that $30, whatever the AOV is for a single product. And then the next month is a 3-month subscription that kicks in. So it becomes like $120. So $150 total in 2 months, which allows them to scale extremely profitably because they can scale at like a 0.7 ROAS or something on that first month because they know their numbers, how many people are going to convert for that second month quarterly subscription. So a lot of people are doing that in ecom. It's very interesting that apps don't really do this. I wonder if a lot of that is really because of Apple and their rules and stuff. But even so, there should be one-time offers or order bumps inside the app in terms of other subscription groups that you can do. Our Tech, the iOS app, has some version of this because we have all of our info products. By the way, our Tech is our creator platform, our Tech UGC platform, to train these Tech UGC creators to become very, very good. So we've seen multiple apps use our creators and go number one in the App Store. And one of the ways that we're doing that is from our past 2 years of running our coaching community. We're taking a lot of that info and what's worked best to train those creators and then putting it in the iOS app. We have a free version so that we can make sure that a lot of creators, even if they don't have the money at start, can learn. And then we have, a couple other, order bumps, I would say, for our top tier creators and special things and all of that. So, you're totally right. I think that's the way to go. I am surprised that a lot of apps do not do this because it would allow them to scale with paid a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
To me, it's a lack of like looking outside of the niche, and maybe I'm just being ignorant. Just the 100 plus apps that we've worked with, maybe they're just not doing it to the level that we feel that they should or could be. But really, companies that want to scale quite significantly. As an example, if you look at Headspace's ad library, a lot of them are going to a web funnel. A lot of them are also focusing on B2B partnerships. So they're thinking about like, okay, like let's say I have an anti-anxiety app. Well, who else could that be sold to? Well, it could be sold to Fortune 500 companies that don't want their employees to churn. It could be sold to universities or to certain schools. Maybe you can get that loaded on iPads. And then instead of selling like one little dinky subscription, you could sell like 10 grand of them at a time. So really the big thing that we focus on is like looking for apps that want to go from like good to great. So what kind of revenue streams can we add in? What kind of ads? What kind of like how many more creators can we add onto a project? That's a big thing. In terms of doubling back to the e-com conversation, the focus on increasing the average order value is probably the biggest thing I see there for apps. And I have like a conspiracy theory about tech stuff right now is I think that most tech will need to be combined with some kind of info. If you look at something like Hyros as an example, they bill quarterly their B2B attribution software. And Alex Becker's just like constantly putting on like free webinars trying to
For
teach
10
people up
years.
for 10 years, trying to teach people up about running better ads. And it's like, I think a lot of these companies really need to think deeply about like, how do I add more value to these customers?
I absolutely love that. And construction going on right now. So
Yeah, no
sorry
worries,
about
no worries.
that. But yeah, again, like I had the same thought process myself. I think it just fully makes sense. And I'm actually going to talk to you about that after this call as well. We can get into some of those details. But in terms of your main clientele, why did you choose like apps and B2C software over ecom CPG?
Yeah, funny enough, I actually originally started at BlackRock and then Google. Then I went into, funny enough, Web3 projects. I was actually bullish on like decentralization and like living off the grid and stuff like that. And I was working on B2B stuff there. And I was really, funny enough, now I like actually hate founder-led marketing, even though I do it. I used to be very much like grow your brand on Twitter. Like all founders should be tweeting and speaking on stage. And then I realized like 99% of technical founders should not even pick a microphone up in the first place. They should just be like locked in their cavern to code like endlessly. So this is a bit about how I stumbled into more of the app space where I'm like, well, like a lot of these founders are not particularly adept at really talking about their product, and nor should they really be spending so much time like on podcasts. People always point to like Elon, but like how many interviews has Jeff Bezos done? Maybe like two or three.
I think
and
it's
like
two. I think it's
yeah,
two.
and like over the entire career of it's like, yeah, people still know who he is. So I think most technical founders really shouldn't be doing content and they should be outsourcing it to these types of creators. And then we're really just trying to facilitate making it easy so they can focus on like the things that actually move the levers in their business. Sorry, that was a little bit of a rant there.
No, that's such a great answer. And I thought about this a lot. And I really think it's as simple as possible. We all have comparative advantages that we need to exploit, more or less. The reality is, if you love to code and build consumer apps or whatever technology you're working on, it's very unlikely that you are someone that's also incredible in front of a camera or, like that's your skills. Like they don't usually line up. It's very rare. Co-founders are great for this, but yeah, I totally agree. I think, but if you can put them together, that's when you get the Hall of Fame entrepreneurs, that can cross those disciplines. So it's just super rare. I don't think most people should necessarily try to do that. It makes, for instance, another example would be, let's say you're an in basketball, you're a 3-point shooter. Your weakness is defense. So you can spend the rest of your life getting really good at defense, or you can just have someone on your team that is an all defensive player. Like you're never going to be that level of defense. So it doesn't, you should improve your weaknesses for sure. And I think there is something to be said for founders being able to communicate their products effectively. They should be able to, it's their story, but I think that's less about communicating the product and more about just telling your story and being a good storyteller. So that's an easier skill to work on as well.
I agree. And when I crap on things like founder-led marketing on Twitter, it's only marketers that come at me. And they're like, you shouldn't say that stuff. I'm like, well, it's never the founders. The founders are like, yeah, I'm busy as hell. I don't want to be on camera. So at the end of the day, one of the main reasons I did this is not only because I found that most technical founders were boring, no offense, technical founders, is I ran an agency where I was the face. I was on all the ads. I was on all the content. And I was looking for an opportunity to exit that agency so that I could focus on a tech. And when I went to go to try to sell it or even just give it to somebody, they're like, well, how are we going to get leads? You're the face. Like you own all the relationships. And I kind of realized the fragility of if you build an entire business, and this is why info products are like almost never exitable, is because it's entirely built on your stuff. So all this is to say, going back to the app stuff, is every single app needs to master multiple distribution channels. Like, let's say you're doing meta ads. Yeah, you can ramp that up to $1 million a month, but like, what if Meta is just to decide like randomly, oh, fuck these guys, ban their ad account? Like, yeah, you could get up and running in like 2 weeks with an agency account, but like, that's a lot of revenue you're missing. Or like, you have to be multi-channel and you can't just be a personal brand. I know that's not as big in the consumer space, but like, I came from the milieu of everyone needs a brand, and I don't believe it.
Yeah, I fully agree. And the consumer space is great because there's just 3 channels really. Like it's paid, organic, influencer, more or less.
Yeah, a little bit of ASO in there,
yeah,
but that's
the
not
ASO
much
is something you can solve
in a day.
relatively easily. Yeah, like yeah, I mean, I just don't think. Actually, Apple Ads would probably be the 4th biggest. You don't want to be outcompeted on your own keywords for sure. Like you ever see people running traffic using other people's apps names and dominating?
I showed my friend this. It was actually for Google. I said, oh, hey, by the way, like I was searching for your brand. Like there are 4 brands that came up before you. And I was like, yeah, it is an interesting thing. I mean, Google is a very interesting ads platform. I worked at Google for a very long time. And it is very funny that you have to bid on your own branded search in order to come up. Now, people can cry about this kind of stuff, or they can just win, right? Like, and I'm a big fan of winning. So just know what is going on. Like, know people are buying keywords on you. Outbid them for your own keywords. Go bid on their keywords. Go run meta ads, TikTok ads. Go win. Like, I think a lot of people just need to learn more about marketing. Like, they think only one method works. It doesn't. Like, there's so many methods that work, and the best method is usually the ones like your competitors are sleeping on.
Wow, incredible. What would you say is your core competency? Because I'm curious now. Is it putting
being
offers?
funny, handsome, and charismatic? I would
the
say,
Tony Stark quote. It's like billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. Yeah.
I would say yapping is the biggest thing, and this is why like people be like, "Oh, you're saying founder-led marketing shouldn't work." I'm like, yeah, I have 500 million views. Like, I think I've earned the right to yap a little bit. I would say biggest thing is really just being like polarizing and being a little bit like over the top. I'm pretty good at yapping.
So how do you feel about guys like Roy Lee? Like, are you bullish on? Yeah, killer.
Bullish.
I see the same thing. I have a friend, and he's like, yeah, I think he's dumb. And I'm like, how could you possibly like, he's an actual killer. I mean, he's in his early 20s and he's dominating social and he has no fear. Like that is basically like the Alexander the Great archetype, like dominating your early 20s, zero fear, and very captivating personality.
I have to say, your friend that said it didn't, like, he's dumb, the guy's dumb. I would say it's the classic person that, like, when you tell somebody like a sales technique, they're like, that would never work on me. Or like, advertising would never work on me. I'm like, you're doubly stupid.
Bro, you know what's so crazy? I have friends that are geniuses, like, 140, 50 IQ people that are, building incredible companies and all of that. And oftentimes they fall for like very simple copy. I know I fall for it, but they'll send me something and be like, dude, check this out. And I'll be like, bro, that's literally an ad. Like, the whole thing is an ad. So it's one of those, oh man, there's a quote too. And it's something like marketing works. Like, you can market to everyone, basically. Like, everyone can be marketed
Yes.
to. I forget the quote, but I just so good.
There's this idea like even people's like prime or wants and desires or like even the things they believe like is would they say pink is a women's color or a men's color?
Yeah, it's like, are you
It's from
asking me,
It
or
was
is that
from
a quote?
advertising. Yeah, yeah. Well,
Oh,
no,
okay.
it's just a thing. Like, okay, so people
Yeah.
think that pink is a women's color. Well, before the 1900s, it was considered a very manly color, and it's only because of an advertising campaign. Diamonds are not a scarce asset. The De Boers Foundation literally just like has a monopoly on the diamond mining and slowly releases the amount. Like everything at the end of the day pretty much derives most of its value, aside from like inherent value, from advertising and how people talk about it. I'll give people an example. I probably shouldn't even say this, but at one point I was selling a product and I changed nothing about the underlying delivery of the product. I had only changed the way in which I'd spoken about it, and I was able to charge 4 to 5 times the price. You could think about this from a Rolex perspective. A Rolex is a hunk of metal. I don't care that it was made in Switzerland. I don't even know if it keeps time well, but like guys are willing to spend 30 grand for one. It's a hunk of metal. It's just advertising.
Yeah, that I mean, it's very true, and it kind of we get into like a little bit of the moral dilemma around what everyone does. Like, is this really what humans should be doing? Is, who can be more manipulative towards other people? Is that a cynical way to look at it? I don't necessarily know. I think your framework, where it's, is this good for someone or not? I think that's the right framework, because I've thought about this a lot, and it the construction outside is
Nah,
crazy.
it's all good. It's all good.
But I thought about it a lot. And when you like, I'll have something that I know is really good for someone, and I know it'll like change their life. For instance, the creator coaching, we have so many brands coming to us looking for these creators. Like, once word got out, um, that we can train these creators and get them up to speed in like 1 to 2 months and making 10 to 20K a month, like pretty much on autopilot. And these a lot of guys, they're like, yeah, but should I join? Like, I don't really want to pay. I'm like, if you put money down and you invest in yourself, I promise you, you're gonna be it's gonna be the best thing you do probably ever. Um, so it's a very weird thing, because should that come across manipulative or not? And if
I
it
don't
is
think it's
good for them,
manipulative at all. It's like people have to remember, as long as you're not selling like cigarettes or something, like selling is serving people. As long as the product is good, you can't even control if somebody's going to go to the trainings or do whatever they have to do. Now, if somebody is like, I don't know, if they like can barely open a computer, yeah, maybe don't sell them. I think that's a big thing that salespeople should do is like you have to turn away prospects every now and again, because one, it's just good for the soul. Well, don't be like a weenie about it. Like, don't be like, oh, I didn't know if they were going to close, so I said no to them. Like, but if you feel like the product's actually not particularly good for them, you have to take like a consultative frame. And like in terms of like manipulation and persuasion are like the exact same. As long as the thing you're selling is good and you believe it will have a net benefit for them, who are you to deprive them of the opportunity to change their life?
yeah, you have the best frameworks around this ever. Like, I need your voice in a podcast clip, like
There
repeating,
you go.
because I do struggle with this. What we've done to kind of mitigate this when we have clients inbound, or potential customers, is we have such a rigorous application process that most people just never get to the call.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's important to filter people out, but I do sometimes wish I could help more people with like the agency and things like that. And I'm sure you feel that way with content economy, where you're like, I'd love to take a little bit of a gamble on this person because like I do think it would change their life, but right now what they're showing me doesn't seem like the best. Ultimately, they call this playing God in sales. Like you want to turn away people that you know for a fact. Like let's say they live, I don't know, in Bangladesh. Sorry to pick on the Bangladeshis today. I brought you up twice. Is imagine they want to get into UGC and you're like, brother, I just don't know if it's going to work. I'm happy to point you to a YouTube video, but I don't think you investing whatever the ticket price is right for you. And like you just have to have that ability as a salesperson to turn that away.
I totally agree. We had one of the craziest stories ever recently. There is a kid from India that messaged one of our creator coaches, and he's like, "I really want to start UGC." He's Indian, and this kid actually started emailing brands and doing all the work. And my friend's like, "Listen, dude, you have the Indian accent. Like, you have to get rid of that." And so he actually started taking English lessons to like fix his accent and get out of it. And he's actually making, I think, like 3 to 4K a month or something right now on
There you go.
UGC.
Hell yeah.
And so, there's people that can actually make it work. But that ultimately is why I built Artec, right? Because it's just such a much more scalable vehicle where you can join for free. You know, you can do that. And then if you want more, there is more. We have the order bumps, right? And on both sides, the B2B platform side for the marketers, and then also for the creator side. And that was my solution to this feeling of, man, an extra 5 or 20K, whatever the ticket price would be, so nice right now. However, I don't know if this person's the right fit. So we could start them with something that makes more sense, which is, the done with you service kind of, or, DIY service. But it's a really good tool to get people off the ground. And then they actually trust us more too, long term, which is nice.
Yeah, and it's good. Yeah, I mean, they call that in sales like playing God. Like at a certain point, some salespeople, it's usually people on your sales team, will stop selling certain people because they're like, I just didn't think they could be successful. But really, they were like future projecting. Like imagine if someone wouldn't sell you something that you thought would actually help your life, you'd be kind of pissed. Truth be told, that could be sometimes a great sales tactic. To be like, yeah, I just don't think you're like the right fit. Like, why would you even want to join this? And then they have to explain why they want to join. And you're like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
Once they're selling themselves,
Yeah.
then it's pretty ever.
Yeah, not to make this a sales podcast, but like everything you say is crap, and everything they say is gold.
Yeah, content is sales. I made a video once comparing UGC versus sales. Shelby Sapp and I had the same car, like a Porsche Macan. And I was like, Shelby got her Porsche Macan doing sales. I got it from doing content, which is true. After my first brand deal, it was like 23K. I just put it down on a car. Yeah, I know.
That's very Florida.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. But I had other deals coming in. And I had already ramped up to like 15, 16K a month as a creator. And I was like, why not? You know what I mean? Yeah. I was like 23.
Hell yeah.
Plenty of reasons why not, actually, come to find out. But anyways, so yeah, content is sales. I think it's a better vehicle. You can also do it from anywhere, which is really nice. Anyways, any closing thoughts or anything, in terms of
yes, I would like to say a few things. I really am a big fan of books, so maybe I could recommend some books for people that want to get better at content. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this one, but if you're doing webinars, One to Many by Jason Fladley in his great book. If people want to get started in writing copy, I think the pound for pound best book that I've ever read on it is called Cashvertising. I also just really like the author. He's very funny. You probably only need to read half of it. So there's only really a few components to get better at content, right? There is mastering tonality, mastering writing scripts, a little bit of copywriting, and then there's like subtle things like how you put light on your face and do angles. So if people want to get better at content, obviously Owen has an amazing community for that. It has an amazing software for that. So go join that. And I would say, like, once you guys become content killers, like, come work for us. We always have brand deals for you.
That's the funnel right there, guys. You get trained by us and then you get deals with Jax.
Exactly. Simple enough.
I love Cashvertising. Actually, I'm actually thinking about going to library today to pick up a new copy of it because I haven't read it in like a few years, and I wanted to brush up on my copy. So it's kind of funny. But Jax, thank you for coming on the show. You're an absolute legend. If you do run an app or a B2C consumer SaaS, Jax is the guy to go to. You will get thousands of videos going out for your app. You will go viral. It's going to help you a ton. No manipulation. That is the absolute truth. No
we
sales.
do a view guarantee, by the way. Even though you don't care about views, we want to get you paying users, but we'll guarantee the views too.
Love it, bro. Love it. Well, great to meet, and let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Love it.